Okay, so let's move on to some carrots. These are kind of weird looking carrots. I had washed them and now they got dry and they're kind of weird looking, but it doesn't matter. Again, we're going to use our speed peeler here. And again, if you go up and down the carrot, you can make quick work of this. Nice for the peeler. I like to do the end and do the middle. Give it a flip. Look how quick that is. Whole carrot peeled just like that. Alright, do another one and I'm just going to go. Oh, by the way, I do not cut the ends off because I find that if you do it like this and then you cut the ends off, you don't waste carrot and you can go all the way to the end. It's a nice rounded end. And that way, when you slice it off, you get rid of the waste, but you don't get rid of much of the carrot. Alright, so now I'm just going to use my chef knife and I'm just going to take off the ends of the carrots. Now remember, the ends of the carrots can be used for stews or stocks, things like that. Or if you're me, just put them in the garden. Try not to waste too much of your carrot. Okay, as you can see, cleaning up the carrots doesn't take a lot of work if you have the right tools. We now have a crap load of carrots. Let's move on to some traditional cuts in the French category. So let's just start with some basics about the carrot. As you know, when you're cutting things, it has a small end, it has a big end, and this kind of causes a problem. So the French came up with a couple different rules about cutting your carrot. The first thing is to think about it in thirds. So if we cut it into thirds, so maybe here, here. Forgive me, my angle is a little odd because I'm sitting down trying to do this so I can do the video. The first thing to consider is the fact that the carrot is round and it rolls. The device for this is to make a cut on the side, straight down. And remember, when you're using your chef's knife, that it's rounded here, so you put it down and then curve. And then we end up with these slices like this. So we put it down and we can take two things off the side again. And a little bit more. There we go. And on the other side, the idea here is to make a cube as much as possible. And I think we've done that. Okay, so now we have a large cube. Now, what we can do is we can use this for a device. So let's go ahead and do the other ones, and then we'll go from there. So the different cuts of the carrot or any other vegetable that you're doing, it has a lot to do with the cooking technique that you're going to be using. What are you going to be doing with the vegetable? How fast does it need to cook? What does the presentation need to be? That kind of stuff. So as you can see here, we have some different pieces, and if these were to cook alone, they would take different times to cook. This one's quite thick, this one's a medium size, this one's a little bit smaller. So the French came up with some techniques about creating a dice or batons so that everything would cook at the same time. So the thing to consider is, what are you going to do with it? In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to make, the first thing is called a baton. So basically, you're just going to slice this in cubes. Again, this is weird because I'm sitting down. And you can see that those are more relative in size. Now, if I was a French student, I would probably get my hand smacked because they are a little bit different from each other, but you get the idea. The perfect one here would be this one. You can see it's about a 1/4 inch square, and that is the baton. So let's do the other ones, and this is the idea. Okay. So there you have the baton or the batonette, lots of different sizes. I would call this a large, and I would probably call this a medium. Now you can go even finer, and that would be to make these even half the size. Alright, so this size here would be referred to as the Julienne or the Julienne allumette. So you can see it's pretty small, and this one's not exactly perfect, so let's see if I can square it up a little bit. Alright, so there is the alouette. And a little bit more here. And from this size, these can be diced. As you can see, it's a very small cut. My carrot is curved. I'm trying to get those. Those look pretty darn even and good to me. So that would be the Julienne amulette. If I'm not saying that right, please let me know. Okay? From there, you can take these and you can make a dice of them, and that is known as the Brunoise dice. So for the Brunoise, you would take your tiny little cubes like this, hold them carefully with your fingers, and make tiny cuts, just because we're trying to make cubes, so we're trying to keep everything the same size. This would go into things like stuffings, or maybe a last addition to a soup. It's pretty much a fine dice if you're doing onions, if you're doing carrots, potatoes. I don't use the Brunoise for much. I think in more sophisticated cooking or things that are more precise. I'm going to put these in a bowl for you here. You'll be able to see that. That would be what your Brunoise is used for. As you can see, it is pretty tiny. Let's see if I can finish this up. Just tiny bits. If you're just learning how to cut things, there is no need for speed. If you see me go fast, or you see your favorite chef on TV fast, that is one thing. It is another thing to be precise and to do some learning. So there is our Brunoise. So that is very exciting. I don't think I've done a Brunoise in 10 years. So there's our Brunoise. I'll just set this aside. We'll come back to her, him, it. Okay, so back to this. I'm trying to get all the ones that are the same size here. So let's say these 5 are about the same size. You can see the cubes are about the same. So these are the medium-sized bâtonnets. Now, these are the ones that, if you've ever gotten peas and carrots frozen, this is basically what you're getting. So you've got your carrots, they're about a 1/4 inch dice, and then you want to 1/4 inch them this way as well. Like I said, I'm sitting, it's kind of weird. Remember, tip down first, then towards yourself. Trying to keep these even. So this is a medium dice. And look, those are your little cubes like you would have in peas and carrots. There's your medium dice. Okay, and then we have our larger peaches with peaches good, that are about a 1/2 inch. So these are the bâtons, not the bâtonnet, but the bâton, or the sticks. These are also the size you could feed your kids for lunch, maybe a little bit longer, but basically it's the same thing. And then with these, if we did a dice, these would be great in soups or in stews, something with a little more heartiness to it. And you can see that these cubes are quite large. Okay, so just to review, we have the Brunoise, we have the medium dice, and we have the large dice. So there you go. That's how you do that with the carrot. So now you have all of these pieces. What do you do with these pieces? Now, there's lots of things you can do with this. You can put these in soups or stock. You can just chop them up and eat them. You can just put them in hummus, whatever. I'm all about the hummus today for some reason. So another thing that you can do is you can do what is called the Julienne, which is to take the piece, and I'm just taking one at a time here, and you're going to take your knife and you're just going to make really, really tiny, thin cuts. Really tiny, thin cuts. And those are your Julienne. These are good for salads. It's good for all different kinds of stuff. Now you can also take these and stack these up, and you can do a bunch at a time. And just move your knife across longwise. Keep your fingers in. Remember, these are the sides that we cut off of the round pieces, and you can just keep on using these. I use Julienne for all different kinds of stuff. I use it for stir fries. I use it for, especially for salads, I think is probably my main use. You can also take this and you could use this and make the Brunoise from this. But you'll see that these are not exactly as precise because we're using basically rounded pieces. Remember to keep your fingers in. Nobody likes the taste of fingers. And there we have our Julienne. Okay, so there's our Julienne. Another carrot, and let's start over. Maybe a little bit shorter there. So, say you want to make carrot sticks for your kids. Boom! Carrot, cut it in thirds, then just slice it down the middle here. And then slice it again. Slice it again. These are carrot sticks for your kids' lunch. Or, you can call these a large baton, but as you can see, they're not even. They're different shapes, but those are just carrot sticks. Easy peasy. So let me show you something that I learned the other day, which I never had seen before. It's a technique, it's a Chinese technique. So basically you're going to cut a little bit of your carrot so it doesn't roll. There we go. And then you're going to make, instead of doing just coins, let's show you this one first. So coins would be just straight down, even pieces like this. I'm sure we've all seen coins 1,000 times. They're probably the old-fashionedest cut there is, just straight across coins. In Chinese cooking, I was learning the other day, they would do this to make a julienne. They would start with a carrot on the bias like this, and then do this diagonal cut on the bias, as they say, and try to keep them in order. Like so. And then I saw this guy, he would took them like this, kept them all stacked up, and then laid them out across like so. I thought this was pretty ingenious. And then just made julienne across the bias cuts of the carrots. Again, just rock your knife back and forth. And he just kept on going through these. And I was most impressed because he had all of these tiny juliennes. Look at that. So that's another technique, and so those, again, another way to make more julienne. They're a little bit smaller, they're a little bit shorter. So there's some more julienne for you. Now I wanted to show you guys a roll technique. We used to use this a lot for different things when I was working in the catering business. And basically you want to you would cut through the vegetable, then you would roll it, and so you see how you see the cut here is diagonal, and then cut the opposite of that diagonal, roll again, cut the opposite of that diagonal, and keep on doing that, and you get a really cool effect. I'll show you. Keep on rolling. So there's a roll cut, which I thought was really cool because they were all kind of triangular shaped. So there's another cut you can try. Okay, so you remember our baton or a batonette. Here we go. Now, I read about something very interesting, and I'm just trying to pick one here. I've never used this one. This is called the Parisienne cut. And basically, if you're going to do something where you're going to quick cook the vegetables, and you want them to all cook at the same time, you want them to be all the same thickness. So if you think about the thickness of a bell pepper, it's probably about 1/8 of an inch. So you could cut all of your vegetables, and so you take your sticks here, your baton, and you cut them thin and all in the same thickness so that when they cook with other vegetables, I thought this was ingenious, I'd never heard of it. So if you look at these, they should be relatively, here's one a little thicker, relatively the same thickness. You can see these here. Relatively the same thickness, and they are just flat cubes. You can see that they're flat there. So they're this wide, but they're that thin. And that's the Parisienne cut. This time we're going to make long flat pieces. This one has some holes in it. Oh well. Okay, so let's take some nice looking pieces here. And then you are going to make diamonds, so then you would cut this in half, and this was called the longe cut. Now I'm not exactly sure what you would use this for, but basically you're going to be cutting diamond shapes out of this flat piece. So again, just a flat piece, and then we just cut the corner, and then we cut on a diagonal, and then you get diamond shaped pieces. I'm not exactly sure, other than a decorative cut, and I didn't cut that through, what you would use these for, but who knows. There's the diamond cut, or as the French call it, the longe. Okay, and I think we're going to do two more here, so let's do this one. It's going to be called the jardinier, the gardener, I believe it is. So basically we're going to cut our carrots in thirds again, and this time we're going to make the bâton again. And basically we have the bâton again, and for the jardinier we're just going to cut this into thirds. And there we go. So that is the jardinier. It is the little cute long cubes. Okay, and the final one we're going to try here, which is going to be interesting because I've never done this one. I'm going to switch knives. Let's see. So I'm going to cut this into thirds. And normally you would do this with a baller, and I don't have a baller, so I'm going to try to do it by hand. And this is called the Rondelle, which is basically the rounding of the vegetables. So my understanding is you carve this down into a little ball. Probably better if you had new carrots, but I'm going with the giant Costco pack here. Not sure of the technique exactly, and if this is even going to turn out. And this could just be my lack of skill. But as a final challenge, if you want to try this one at home, the Rondelle, which is cutting it into a ball, and I can definitely see that this would be something that would take practice. So let's try that. There's one Rondelle, and let's try another one here, see if I can do any better. That one's not too bad. Alright, so there's my quick attempt at the Rondelle, which is a little ball, if you will. Okay, you guys, I hope this helped you in your techniques, just to try different things. And remember, don't waste food. You can use all of this stuff. I'm going to make a big old pot of soup here. I've got all of the different pieces in there. But let's see what we got here. So, we have our round cut. We have our Rondelle, which we'll just throw in there. We also have... oh, somebody loves me. The Julienne. This is the Julienne. We also have the Brunoise, which is the tiny dice. We have the medium dice. And if you guys can see it there in the top, there is the large dice. Alright, you guys. I hope you learned something, and give this a try at home.